What is up, my friends? Welcome back to the channel. What if I told you that with just a few minutes of pushing sliders around, you could get your video to be stylized just the way you want? Yep, we're taking a look, obviously, because of the thumbnail, at a product called Dehancer. Yeah, not Enhancer, but Dehancer. And what it is a plugin for Resolve, Premiere, and a few others that allows you to emulate actual film stock, even if you shot something with like a ZV-1 that's recording this video, or, a cell phone. You can take these digital images and in a matter of a couple of minutes, turn them into something that looks like it was filmed on actual like Hollywood film stock. How cool is that? Pretty cool, right? Now, before we get started, the team at Dehancer did reach out to me a few weeks ago and asked me to do this review. But they specifically asked for an honest review. So I'm going to lay it out for you. We're going to go through the install. We're going to go through the main features of it. I'm going to show you some examples and how to use it in Davinci Resolve. And we're going to talk price too, because this one ain't cheap. All right. I'll be right up front with you. It's $399 US. A lot of coin. Editing John here. After recording this video, Dehancer reached out and said, hey, we'd like to offer your viewers a discount. So stick around to the end of the video for more information on that. So hopefully at the end of this video, you see the value. If you want something that is easy to use and gives great effects, really, literally in a matter of minutes, stick around. So let's go through the install process. You download Dehancer from their website, and I'll leave a link to it in the video description below. And they do have a trial, by the way, a free trial. You start the installation, accept the license, figure out if you want it in any shortcuts on your start menu, because I'm doing Windows, obviously. And then you wait a few minutes, and it does the install, and it does take a few minutes. Once it's done, you enter your license key, and that takes your email address and the activation key that they email you when you purchase it. And you click Activate Plugin. Once you've done that, open up Davinci Resolve, and it will be under Effects, Open Effects, and if you scroll down, you will find it under Film Emulation. And you can drag it onto an adjustment clip or onto a picture or video. All right, the installation is done. That was easy, right? Just a couple of steps. Davinci Resolve picks up on it, sees that it's there, and it's ready for us to use. So now let's jump into Davinci Resolve, and we'll take a look-see at a timeline I've already set up with some examples. So here we are in Davinci Resolve. We've got an original image that I picked, and the reason I picked this one is because it's got clear reflections from the sun that's over here off of my motorcycle. And I've added titles to here, so it'll show you what is going on with each of these clips. And we're going to apply the effects one by one. Quick note on that, I went into Dehancer and I exaggerated just a little bit each effect so that it's pretty clear what it's doing to your image. So here we have the original, and then you can see the film grain, and I zoomed in so you can really easily see it. Halation, which is a reddish glow that comes off of lights. Bloom, which is an overexposing of the lights. And then a vignette, which darkens the edges. Film breath, where it's doing some crazy stuff we'll talk about, and gate weave, which we'll also talk about, and then the push pull. That last one is kind of subtle, but it has to do with the contrasting and color of the image. Now, I sort of went into it there, but halation is a reddish orange tint that has to do with the film stock. Everything's about the film stock. It's all about the film stock, which is pretty cool. So your bloom is kind of your light bleeding. So a reflection that bleeds into the contrasting areas around it. And same thing with the halation a little bit. And then you have the film breath and gate weave. Now, film breath is emulating the inconsistencies in the film. So in the actual film stock, it emulates that. Gate weave is because film used to be threaded through a projector, and sometimes it rocks side to side and like this a little bit, just tiny amounts. And I've exaggerated it here so you can tell what it's doing. So hopefully that clears it up, makes it a little more understandable. Yeah, for the layperson like me, because I'm not a professional colorist, I'm not a professional editor, and I certainly am not a professional filmmaker. Have you seen the other videos on my channel, right? So now that we looked at a couple of examples, let's go look at the actual plugin inside DaVinci Resolve. So for this first example, I have Dehancer on an adjustment clip. And quick side note on that, if you noticed over here, the blue line means that the render cache has rendered these. That's because they're applied directly to these images instead of in an adjustment clip. If you apply it in an adjustment clip, it doesn't want to do a render cache for you, but you will want to apply it directly to an image because we'll get into it in a minute. It's pretty resource intensive. So anyway, we can drag things around, make room, and I can show you under your inspector, which is up here if you don't see it, effects, and then all the way at the top, it says Dehancer. So you can choose your input. That's the first thing. You can choose your camera and also a number of source color spaces. Rec 709 is usual for GoPro and stuff, or will work with GoPro, I should say. But in this case, I did shoot this on the ZV-1. And you can immediately, right off the top, change the exposure, temperature, tint, and defringe if you want. So I've already added a little bit of temperature and tint compensation to that. I picked Agfa Color 100 as the film stock, but check this out. It has like 50 of them in here. This is crazy. You can choose all of these. And if I want this one, boop, you can see it changes. If I want black and white, boom, there's black and white. I mean, really, how cool is that? You just got black and white, but it's not pure black and white. It's an actual film stock that was used. And it adds so much character to an image. I've always found that digital images lack character. Even with a Note 20 like this, it's lacking something. It lacks that soul. And that's one reason that I bought the ZV-1 is because the images you get from a dedicated camera do not look the same as something that comes out of here. Now you can stylize that even further. And I just think that's a wonderful thing. So moving on, we'll go back to Agfa because I'm used to seeing what it looks like. There we go. And we've added so much to this already. And if you want to disable the film, you can just disable the film and you can see the color changes that I made, especially compared to the original. Hey, look, I have the original there. Neat. So anyway, back to here, we'll enable this. And you can see the push-pull here where it changes how the color is working. But I like it at 0. I didn't really do much with Film Developer or film compression, which is not enabled, but I did mess with the expand, which I find is a good way to add contrast very quickly, and a little bit of color depth, which I like. And then I changed it because it's a picture to Kodak Endura glossy paper. Ooh, fancy. But you can see that makes quite a bit of difference too. It adds yet more contrast, just a tiny bit at a time. Color head is a good way to change the different like shadows and midtones and highlights and all that. And I mean, there's just a ton of settings in here that you can tinker with. So here we are in film grain, and there's a lot of different things you can do in here, but you're not going to be able to see this on YouTube. YouTube's compression crushes it. If I show it to you blown up full screen, you can't see that there's grain there. And if I disable the grain, it might look a little bit sharper. So what we're going to do is we're going to blow this up to 500%, and then we're going to look at my bike here. So if I go over to our effect and disable the grain, you can see there's no grain in there, but this is the natural bokeh from my camera. And then if I re-enable the grain, hopefully you can see that now. And if you really want to see it, what we could do is change the size of the grain so it's much bigger, and the amount of the grain, whoa, that's too much, to there, and then go full screen, and you can see that it added a ton of film grain, which again, I think adds a lot of character. I really like that film grain. That was one of the biggest things I was looking for, and it's a shame that YouTube kills it off, but if you go to my Instagram, you can see some of that. And now that we're zoomed in, the halation, you can see it changes. There's kind of a reddish tinge to things. And then there's also bloom enabled. So you can see right here, look right there, and it gets lighter and darker as I enable it and disable it. Pretty cool stuff. Again, a vignette does a big change to it, kind of like older film. And then you won't see film breath or gate weave on this one. But those are my favorite features of it. I really enjoy things that make my editing life easier and more fun. And having something to automatically change how the film looks or the video looks like film is really, it's like chef's kiss. That's what I want. You know, I don't need to go in and muck around in the color tab for days on end to get a film look. I can just change the sliders and I'm done. And if I like the way it turned out, I can reuse it. Let's go into Resolve and I'll show you how to do that. So in our media pool, you have power bins. If you don't see your power bins, click the 3 dots here and then show power bins right there. But I've got a whole bunch of them. And in my color correction, I actually have Dehancer. I've got a whole bunch. And the way I got all of these in here was I literally took an adjustment clip that had some things changed in it and dragged it up and dropped it. So now it's up here. I can click on it a second time and change it. And now there it is. It's in my power bin. I can use it anywhere I want, any project. So if I have this image here, which I think looks really cool like this, let's say I wanted to make it black and white. We'll just drag this guy on. It's black and white. You can see if I click on here in the effects tab of the inspector that it's Sony ZV-1, and then I've got the Rolei Ortho 25. And if I'm mispronouncing that, let me know in the comments below. And then I've changed a whole bunch of settings, and that just looks like a really cool vintage image, doesn't it? I just think that's really neat. And if I disable it, you can see the original image. It's bright, it's colorful, it's fun, but now it's black and white. And I just think that looks really cool. Color, black and white. I mean, that just blows my mind. I love this thing. This is such a fun tool to use. And it works on video. Obviously, this one hasn't done a render cache, so you can see, and then we'll get into one of the things I don't like about it. Yeah, you can see the frame rate right up there. Once again, 13, 14, and then boom, 30. So let's wrap this one up with some of my notes. I've done some test renders, and I've actually put it in a video that's published on the channel, and one other that I've uploaded but haven't published. So I've been using this thing for a few weeks, and I've noticed that it is very CPU and GPU intensive. I have 32 gigs of RAM. The CPU is a 10750H Intel. I think that's a i7 or i9, I forget. It's 3 years old. And I have an NVIDIA 2070 Super GPU, I believe with 8 gigs of RAM. So I don't have the world's beefiest system, but it's fairly robust. And when I render with Resolve, unlimited, uncapped, 156 frames per second. Rendering with a Dehancer effect, 17. So you can tell it's using a ton of resources to do what it's doing. So it's not just a LUT and it's not just an overlay like a PNG. It's doing a lot of math and it's doing a lot to your image, which I think is really cool. But just know going in that even on my computer, which will play back 4K very seamlessly, very smoothly, it won't play there. It's 17 frames per second, and that's about it. And heaven help me if I add more to it. And the other thing is the price. I mentioned it earlier, it's $400. So it really comes down to what your budget is for what you're doing and what you're creating your videos for. Because like I said, I uploaded a test render to YouTube and it was a 2.7K upload and it crushed all the film grain. You could tell there was halation and bloom and the other things. You could not tell that there was any film grain there. I think I can see a little bit on my Instagram pictures that I've uploaded because I did some A/B tests. People didn't like my changes. I'm sad about that. But at the end of the day, it's super easy to use. It's super fast to use. And I showed you in the power bins, you can reuse the effect as much as you want. And you can get the same style for all your videos. So if you dialed in a style you like, edit your video. When you're done, throw an adjustment clip on it and add your Dehancer to it or drop it, drag it in from the power bins, throw it on there, lengthen it to the length of your film and boop, you're done. Like, there's your stylization. How cool is that? So I will leave a link to Dehancer in the video description below. And what do you think of this? Let me know in the comments below if this is something you're interested in. Editing John, back again. Did you enjoy the video? If you did, boop the like button, and you're gonna love this. The Dehancer team says if you use the code REALITY10 at checkout, you get 10% off their list price. So use that and save yourself a few bucks. And I also forgot to mention elsewhere in the video, they do have some of the other effects like bloom and halation and a few others as separate $99 plugins for Davinci Resolve and the other editing software. So keep that in mind when you're perusing their website. And thanks again to the Dehancer team for sending me a license for it. I do appreciate it. And I look forward to using this in future videos because I do my music sections when I'm riding, and this allows me to go in and just drop an effect over sections of riding footage, which really before it was a lot of mucking about in the color tab. Now I don't have to do that. So thanks, it's awesome. And until next time, here's a playlist of my Davinci Resolve videos. I hope you're having a great day. Take care, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.